2% of Americans.
This has my freedom fighters scratching their heads. Fox Business anchor, my colleague and friend Lori Rothman, the Future of Freedom Foundation founder and president Jacob Hornberger, and radio host and Freedom Watch regular Leslie Marshall. Jacob, to you first. First, some basics. Isn't taxation theft? What right does the government have to take whatever it decides it wants or needs from our income by virtue of us existing here and working hard and earning income?
Well, no right at all. Taxation is theft, but especially with respect to the income tax. You know, Judge, Americans live without income taxation for more than 100 years. That's what they considered a free society, and that was one of the major reasons for the wealth, prosperity, and voluntary charity of the American people. And as a libertarian, I say, let's stop talking about all these little silly tax cuts. Let's restore the principles of freedom on which this country was founded.
Leslie, are the Democrats in the Congress as seemingly conflicted about the Bush-era tax rates as the president was? Or stated differently, were you, a Democratic strategist and radio analyst, as perplexed by the president as I was when first he praised the tax cuts and then he said they have to go?
No, Judge, because as a woman, I was paying attention. What he's always said is that what he's always said
I love you, Leslie. Go ahead.
I love you too, Judge. What he's always said is that this will be temporary. Okay, guys, I'll play nice, but this will be temporary. I want this for all Americans except the top 2%. This is not going to go long term. And he echoed that last night. Bottom line, it did so much for the economy after 10 years. How come we had unemployment keep going up, and how come we didn't have the money put back into the economy to stimulate?
Lori, what does this do for Wall Street, for the business community, when the president makes flip-flops like this? First, he said no Bush-era tax cuts will stay for anyone. Then, of course, he caved after the elections in November. Now he says they have to go in 2 more years. A lot of tax planning is for longer than 2 years. Isn't his statement alone last night, the second of the 2 statements, enough to stop tax planners in their tracks?
Well, I'll tell you, with the Dow, Judge, flirting with 12,000 today, there's so much bullish momentum. Wall Street is loving this new fiscally responsible president. Look, he has a fine line to draw, right? He's trying to carve out this new centrist, business-friendly, job-creating climate, but also as a deficit hawk. So he's thinking, all right, if I really push to cut this 2% tax extension for the 2% wealthiest, he's looking like that deficit hawk, and he's filling that promise.
Do we live in a dream world, Jake, if we really think we can get rid of the IRS? Is the government so wedded to taking 1/3 of what we earn and borrowing more and spending us into oblivion that we will never see a time when we have the ability to keep what we earn at the end of each week?
I don't think it's a dream world at all. We see people around the world that are now starting to question what this kind of systems they live under. They're demonstrating, they're protesting, they're even ousting regimes. I think if the American people ever rediscover their ideological roots, their libertarian roots, we got a real shot at restoring a real free and prosperous society to our land.
Leslie, we're going to change topics in a minute, but before we do, to the Democrats, how much taxing is too much taxing? Or is there no such answer to that?
Well, you know, I like the fairy tale of going back, sorry guys, I said the libertarian buddies, of having no income tax. I like my money, and I want to keep it, but I think that's a long process, and I don't think it's a goal I'm going to see in my lifetime. You know what, Judge, you know if you want something, you have to pay for it. Is there a limit? Yes, but you can't just say, you know, either tax or cut spending. It's not an all-or-nothing deal.
Right,
it has to be a perfect marriage.
All right, changing topics now. Last night, the president also spoke grandly, if not almost authoritatively, almost authoritarian-like, about his so-called investments in education, the infrastructure, and green energy. But where in the Constitution is any of that authorized? He even praised the Constitution. I thought of you at this point, Leslie, in the same Constitution-bashing speech. So while saying he's faithful to the Constitution, Leslie Marshall, he wants to expand Amtrak, invest in education, do biomedical research, tighten the child labor laws, regulate the speed limits. None of that, you must agree, is in the Constitution. None of those things are given to the federal government, Leslie Marshall. What do you say?
Well, you know I love the Constitution, Judge, and this is why you thought of me. But where in the Constitution does it say we can put our kids to work? I've got a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. Sign me up. No, but I'm just saying that we have to have certain programs to keep things in check.
All right,
Child
all right.
labor
Doesn't
laws
it
are
matter
one, and we
that
have
Jacob-
to care about our infrastructure.
Jacob, doesn't it matter if these things are unconstitutional? A little unconstitutionality here, a little unconstitutionality there. Before you know it, the government's authoritarian and does whatever it wants.
It becomes an omnipotent government with unlimited powers. And that's what they've done with the Interstate Commerce Clause, the Welfare Clause, any number of clauses. They've just opened up the floodgates to what was originally designed to be a very small government with very limited enumerated powers.
Lori, does the business community believe that there's such a thing as a government faithful to the free market, faithful to the Constitution? Or does Wall Street want all the welfare it can get?
Well, absolutely Wall Street is in favor of that. But I'll tell you the whole idea with this policy, right? It's about establishing the soft power. You have huge threats from China, right? China is about to overtake the world and become the global growth engine. You also have serious contagion threats coming out of the Eurozone and its debt solvency issue. So this is about switching the policy from picking up the pieces from the financial markets meltdown now to establishing the president, giving him a legacy of creating these things, and again, giving the U.S. this sort of soft power push, whether or not these
We
factors...
just have about 15 seconds. Did Wall Street believe him last night, or they expect more changes coming out from his mouth?
I definitely think Wall Street believed him. Bottom, the Federal Reserve today came in as well, kept easy money policy coming in, so they're very bullish right now.
Leslie Marshall, Jake Hornberger, Lori Rothman, it's a pleasure.